I don't need an intro for this. Nintendo is an awful company. They have truly become the purest form of cancer in this entire industry, and here's why. Charging $80 for a video game isn't just ridiculous, but it's dangerous. It's setting a precedent for games to cost more and more sooner and sooner. It couldn't possibly be any more anti-consumer. Nobody gives this company enough credit for how scummy they actually are and have been for years. Mario 3D World launches on Wii U for $60. Later is discounted as a Nintendo Select for $20, gets ported to Switch for $60. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze launches at $50, is discounted to $20, gets ported to Switch for $60. Luigi's Mansion 2 launches on 3DS for $40 in 2013, discounted to $20 in 2016, and gets ported to Switch for $60 in 2025. I mean, what? I'm sorry, what? Are you fucking kidding me? And let's also keep in mind that all these games are over a decade old. Charging me $60 for a 12-year-old 3DS game that used to cost $20. And it's so lazily ported that the game is filled with bugs and graphical glitches. Stop buying these games. Every dollar you spend on Nintendo is just one more reason they have to charge you more for less. You buying this is telling them that I will buy this quality of a game for this price regardless of its age. So what do we have now? Well, we have a console that meets the bare minimum. 4K output. That's something I would expect standard from a console in 2016, let alone 2025. 120Hz. To be expected. Although it's nice to know that whatever power this thing is pumping, it ain't enough to do 4K and 120 at the same time. I guess we'll just have to wait another 9 years for that. A 1080p screen. Geez, I'd fucking hope so. And a few other little additions that just barely scrape the standards of today's consoles. But what about those accessories? Of course, we now have built-in game chat being accessible through the C button. With the new Switch 2 camera, you can stream your greasy face to all your loser friends over in Louisiana. But of course, a Nintendo Switch Online membership is required. So this button is completely useless unless you pay money. With a paid subscription, you get the privilege of participating in video calls featuring a shitty virtual green screen mask, 3 frames per second streaming, and only 4 minutes of latency. All for the low price of at least $20 annually and of course $50 for the Temu quality USB camera. But at the very least, now inviting friends to parties is all done on the system. No need for complicated instructions on how to use a headphone jack. Wow, it only took them 23 years. I'm glad to see people treat this like an accomplishment. But don't worry, I'm sure we can all trust that Nintendo's accessories will be made with quality components and will work flawlessly. They are the company that made these after all, and these have a long history of functioning properly, right? But now, I have a new issue. The Nintendo Switch 2 just has so many new features that have been standard for years, and the only piece of hardware I'm familiar with is this Leapfrog. So how can I learn all about these new features? Well, fret not, jackass. All you need is the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. All for the low price of $10. Wow, remember the good old days when you would get a new console and dick around with the built-in software? These types of software are so important because they'll always be the consumer's first impressions with the system. Everyone will always remember playing around with PictoChat or DSi Sound on the DS. They'll remember playing Face Raiders and collecting puzzle pieces in the Street Pass Plaza on 3DS. You'll remember screwing around in Welcome Park on the PS Vita, the Playroom on PS4 and PSVR, Nintendo Land on Wii U, and of course the most famous pack-in tech demo, Wii Sports. Such a simple and light game that is now cemented into pop culture. You just cannot think about the Wii without thinking about Wii Sports. And what did we just teach Nintendo? We just taught Nintendo that if you take a 16-year-old tech demo and cheaply repaint it with content missing at launch, then we will gladly pay $60 for it. Think about this. A free game from 2006. A $60 game from 2022. This is fucking disgusting. There is no soul behind this game. It's graphically unimpressive in both its art style and visual output. And you know what's sad? This isn't even the first time they did this. Go back to 2013 with Wii Sports Club and it's the same deal. Suddenly a free tech demo costs $50. At the very least, this game looks good. Everything about its visuals is just beautiful, and it felt good, like human beings with pulses worked on it. Jump ahead 10 years and you get this slop. So what about the Nintendo Switch 2? Does it get a tech demo? Well, the original Switch got 1-2 Switch, a $50 piece of shit that was fun one time ever, and that was when it launched and you wanted a break from Zelda. I genuinely remember the only time I had fun with this game was when everyone playing it was laughing at how stupid it was. And hey, how about a sequel? A sequel to a tech demo that takes the idea of complete garbage and asks for another $50. So how about that Switch 2? This time around, we got Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, a tech demo more focused on the hardware and teaching you what it does and how to use it. And you have to pay for it. That is the most unbelievable shit on the planet. I'm paying $450 for your uninnovative money vacuum of a console, and then I have to pay you to teach me how to use it? Now we have game sharing, which is a nice addition, but of course it's nothing new. You've been able to play local multiplayer games by streaming your game to a friend's console on PlayStation for years now. This being an option on Switch is nice, and it even works locally, but even then, they act as if it's new. It's not even new for them. You can share your game locally to others with just one copy of the game. Wow, you mean like download play? You mean like that thing I could do 20 years ago for free on a DS? And now you get this mess. Only Switch 2 systems can share games, but both generations can receive gameplay. That's nice. Remember how the 3DS had download play with other 3DS systems and DS systems? And there was just no need for any other explanation because nothing about it was confusing? Virtual game cards are so anti-consumer, it's ridiculous.
But what if digital games could be as flexible and convenient as game cards?
I'm sorry, what? Yeah, I'm sitting here with my digital game library confused out of my mind. Shouldn't it be the other way around? I wish that physical games could be as flexible and convenient as digital ones. If I have 3 Switches, I can download my entire digital library on all of them and play any game at any time on whichever console I choose. What about that isn't flexible and convenient? So now, all your digital games have to be loaded and unloaded from system to system every time you want to play them. Wow, well isn't that just an absolute nightmarish headache? Imagine how much fun it'll be sitting with your systems loading and unloading different games so you have what you want on the right consoles, but not at the same time. Why not just say, we don't like people sharing accounts for their game libraries because we want to sell more copies of our overpriced soulless garbage. And you gotta love how they act as if this is a win for the consumers. You can hand over digital games to people within your family group for a maximum of 14 days, then they lose access. Are you out of your fucking mind? I'd imagine that if you're in a family group with someone, you're probably close enough to where you wouldn't mind signing into your account on their console so they can access your entire library. So this is a great way to shove monetization into one of the most basic concepts of owning software. So with that on the way, we have even more great news. Digital keycards. For select Switch 2 games, the cartridge will only hold the license for the game. If you want to actually play it, you have to download it with an internet connection. What in God's name is going on anymore? I've seen people try to defend this, saying that most people are spreading misinformation, but there is nothing to argue with. This is directly from Nintendo's website. Game key cards are different from regular game cards because they don't contain the full game data. Instead, the game key card is your quote-unquote key to downloading the full game to your system via the internet. Not DLC, not partial data, the entire full game. The game itself isn't included on the game key card. If you want to claim that this is just this generation's way of selling game cases with a download code inside, you are wrong. This is a code for a game that is staying on my console. This is a physical game card with a license on it that is the only way I am allowed to access my downloaded game. But this way, you can share digital games. Wow, so like a physical game, except there's nothing in this. That is the scenario that people are trying to defend. The scenario that Nintendo has given themselves and developers the option to have control over the license of not only your digital games, but now your physical games too. Truly incredible. Nothing is yours anymore. So the console will only have 256 gigabytes of storage, which is practically nothing in today's day and age. But make sure you reserve extra space for games because no longer will you be able to just play off the game cartridge. You'll need the space too. Stock up on those micro SD cards because Hogwarts Legacy is going to end up eating 25% of your console's storage, no questions asked. And how fun will it be to take your new game home and watch it slowly download with a slow internet connection because not everyone lives in some massive suburbia where high download speeds are the norm. This has nothing on it but a license. And although this doesn't apply to all games, there are already many that are confirmed to be using it and expect more to be on the way. Ultimately, what this tells me is that years from now, when the Nintendo Switch 2 servers are shut down, these cards will mean absolutely nothing because there's nothing on them. Generations from now, if you buy a Switch 2, there will be so many games you just can't play because you should have existed in the period of time you could download them in. This one is so frustrating. GameCube games are coming to Switch 2 only if you pay for the online expansion pack. Okay. And of course, there's going to be a Bluetooth GameCube controller released, but obviously you can still just use the Joy-Cons. But what about those triggers? Somehow we've gone yet another generation of Nintendo consoles without analog triggers. Another generation where the triggers are just buttons. So how are some games going to be played with the Joy-Cons? Because in many games like Mario Sunshine and Luigi's Mansion, both of which are being advertised, pressing the trigger all the way and pressing the trigger a little do completely different actions. Does anyone in this company communicate? Does anyone know what's going on? This is the right hand not knowing what the left hand's doing. As if you'll go as far as to make GameCube games a launch title, but still not bother using the industry standard for your controller even though the 20-year-old controller you have to reproduce has it? What? How about game upgrades? You guys like spending more money on things you already paid for? This one is so absurd I don't even know where to begin. What if, imagine this, all the poorly optimized Switch games that run at 30 FPS at best in 720p could be played normally without us making the effort to actually optimize them for the hardware they were originally developed for. And then we can charge you for it. Games will run at improved resolutions and frame rate. You mean the resolutions and frame rates they should be running at in the first place if you put more effort into properly optimizing them? I'd love to know what black magic was used that made the Thousand Year Door run at a flawless 60 FPS on my GameCube in 2004, but couldn't be used 20 years later to make its HD remaster run at a consistent 30. Maybe there just is no point in spending money optimizing games when people will just buy them anyway. And finally, the elephant in the room. $80 fucking for a video game. On no planet can you defend this. This has nothing to do with tariffs, you can come up with every excuse in the book, but on no planet in the solar system was poor old Nintendo forced to charge you $80 for a digital game and what's looking to be $90 for a physical one so they could keep their starving CEOs off the street living in a box. That is fucking disgusting. $80 for a game that is graphically less impressive than most Wii titles I can think of that are going for a similar style. That is absolutely abhorrent. Nintendo has become the illumination of the gaming industry, adopting the same ideology as them when they animate movies. How can you develop a game as cheaply and quickly as possible? Nintendo seems to love this disgustingly soulless art style that clearly requires very minimal processing power to render without much issue. You see it in Mario Kart World, you see it in Nintendo Switch Sports, you see it in Princess Peach Showtime, Mario & Luigi Brothership, and you're seeing it in upcoming games like Donkey Kong Bonanza and Tomodachi Life Living the Dream. This soulless pastel-y art style that looks like the standard for an iOS game in 2014. So unbelievably unimpressive and terrible looking. It has nothing to do with a vision or the choice of art direction. You can go for a cartoony or even cel-shaded aesthetic and still make it look beautiful. You saw it on Wii U, you saw it on 3DS, you saw it literally everywhere. This is not beautiful. This is not visually impressive, and they expect you to pay $80 for it, and pay even more for physical, which is such a scummy way of forcing players who need to save money where they can into switching over to digital. Forget DRM, digital games means no money spent on producing, no money spent on shipping, and most important of all, no commission to any retailer. Every penny going directly to the biggest pieces of shit in the industry. It seems that the full price of Switch 2 games will be either $70 or $80 digitally. But just take a look at these prices. Are you fucking kidding me? $70 for Breath of the Wild with a Switch 2 upgrade. Didn't this game come out almost 10 years ago? And now it costs more? How does that work? Tears of the Kingdom, $80. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, $80. Mario Party Jamboree, $80. I'd really love to know what makes Nintendo think Mario Party Jamboree has appreciated in value by $20 since it came out. All it needed was 3 new shitty minigames that utilize the new system's gimmicks. Maybe just develop new games for your system? Maybe when your launch lineup is a cheap-looking Mario Kart, a paid tech demo, and 3 25-year-old GameCube games, you should think more about actually developing new video games rather than selling me an 11-year-old game a third time. I've seen people post pictures like this or say that PlayStation was the first to do paid upgrades, and to that I say, yeah? Is anyone defending those? I certainly haven't seen anyone defending those. What kind of dumbass logic is that? I certainly don't like paying for cheap-looking, overpriced games anywhere. I don't like paying to play the same game again, this time with a raised frame rate cap. Nintendo doesn't need to charge $80 for Mario Kart because of tariffs. Nintendo doesn't need to charge $70 for Breath of the Wild again because of inflation. And Nintendo doesn't need to charge anything for a tech demo because something that looks like this just costs too much money to develop. They should start taking donations because the morons defending this could then just wire their paycheck directly to them instead of giving them the burden of making Breath of the Wild run in 1080p. And honestly, in today's economy, by the time you boot up your first game on this thing, you'll be refinancing your car. The console costs $450 USD, $500 for the Mario Kart bundle. Over in Japan, the base system without Mario Kart costs roughly $350 USD. What's the catch? Well, the system is Japan only and is region locked to only Japanese Nintendo accounts. If you want access to other language and region options, then you'll need to cough up the full $450. It doesn't get any more anti-consumer than that. Anyone hoping to save money by importing won't be able to because the system is region locked. I would love to know the reason why the multilingual system costs what is roughly equivalent to $450 USD everywhere in the world, but the Japanese only version that's only available in Japan costs $350. So essentially, you're paying $100 for the privilege of using other languages. Wow, that's some expensive DLC. And the system is not being manufactured in Japan, just showing that the console itself isn't valued at $450. Here's the exact same thing but $100 less, except only Japanese. Tariffs have nothing to do with them choosing to release a Japanese-only console for less, or charging $100 more for language options outside the US. They're just coming up with these prices because fuck you. There is no expensive chip they have to put in this console to add language options. I'd like to never spend more than $60 on a video game, and I want the entire industry to know that, because I don't want to pay $80 for a video game, you fucking idiot. Thank God morons like this exist so these billionaire and trillionaire companies can continue to screw over all all the normal people with functioning brains who don't want to dig into their savings account so they can play a Mario Kart in the year 2025 that looks like this. Wow, all that extra power is really being put to use, I see. To be a person as stupid as this must be blissful, justifying $80 by comparing it to eating food. So you want to pay $80 for a game. You're cool with new big releases costing $80 fucking dollars. You would think these are like industry plants. Nintendo should just start charging $100 instead because idiots like this will find some batshit way to justify it. Just donate your money to them at this point. You can't fit their entire cock in your mouth. So ultimately, what can we do? Well, we can just simply not buy it. It's that simple. Vote with your dollar. When you give Nintendo money for a game that launches with no content or is unfinished, or for a game that's a port of a title over 10 years old that used to be $20 and is suddenly $60, or money for a game that is so poorly optimized that the absolute best you can expect is an inconsistent 30 frames per second. That's you telling them that I, the consumer, will give you money for this regardless of its quality. I will buy Luigi's Mansion 2 on Switch even though it was $20 on a 3DS and was ported with bugs and graphical oversights. I will give you $300 for a console so poorly designed that it scratches my screen when I dock it, has $80 controllers with connectivity issues that often cease to function over time, has UI that looks like someone made it in Adobe Illustrator in 9 minutes, acts as a portal to the world's laggiest and most unstable web-based online storefront, and has a library of poorly optimized games, half of which are being resold for the second or third time, and the other half comprised of cheap, soulless shovelware quality garbage with no polish, nothing memorable, and absolutely no passion or love anywhere to be found in it. Buggy messes that you are being sold as is because you'll buy it anyway. Do not buy the Switch 2. Do not buy its $90 controllers or its $80 games. Do not buy its shitty camera or its $35 piece of plastic controller charger. Do not act like this is an upgrade. UI that went from uninspired to uninspired with a few more circles. Do not pay $20 for game upgrades that act as a paid 60 FPS patch or a subscription that gives you temporary access to them. And do not buy a $450 glorified Switch 1 with nothing but corporate greed at the heart of it. Buying this not only lets Nintendo know how far they can push the boundaries of laziness, but ultimately supports a company that, in its current state, is making billions off of doing the absolute bare minimum. Years ago when Nintendo games came out, whether they were good or bad, you could see that 99% of them were always made by people who genuinely cared and were encouraged to do so. Directed by people focused on quality and enjoyment value over development time and costs. Games made with love that contained the soul of the development team that worked on them, acting as somewhat of a portal to a vision, whether or not that vision is very fun. And today you have this. In 2015, when Satoru Iwata died, the worst thing that could possibly happen to the company happened. For the first time ever, Nintendo was being run by a businessman, not a player. Not by someone who cared from day one and was there for everything every step of the way, or by someone with a genuine interest for the product, but by someone whose job it is to make money and that's it. Nothing else matters as long as the company is as profitable as it can be. And that businessman chose another businessman to succeed him. And how much you want to bet that that businessman will be succeeded by another businessman? I honestly think the days of Nintendo being the most authentic company in the industry are long gone and never coming back. People have complaints about everyone. Xbox and their annoying use of your data, PlayStation's anti-consumer practices and poor design, EA's microtransactions, Ubisoft's abuse of DRM. But genuinely, in complete seriousness, just ask yourself, what makes Nintendo any better than these companies? What is making Nintendo not the worst company in the industry in your mind? Because if you ask me, they've become the biggest cancer of the industry. Not only are they doing everything other companies are shunned for and more, but they're getting away with it. What is, without a doubt, the most influential video game company that has ever existed and will ever exist is setting the precedent that consumers will buy anything, and the other companies will follow. As the consumer, your voice is the most important because none of these companies would exist if you weren't giving them your money. Demand more. When so many companies are fighting for your dollar, why shouldn't they fold to your standards? When Xbox first announced the Xbox One and boasted about its online requirements, its unnecessary use of Kinect, and all the other little things that made people hate it, like the lack of being able to share your games, people made fun of them. And so did the industry. Sony famously taunted them with this short video on their website.
This is how you share your games on PS4.
Thanks.
プレイステーション
And Microsoft was spiteful. People were happy with their 360s and wanted a reason to move on to the next big thing. And no one said it better than the idiot trying to get us to buy it, Don Matrick, while trying to defend the Xbox One.
Fortunately, we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
If it doesn't look good, then don't pay $500 for it. Do not support this company. Nintendo is not one of the good guys. Nintendo in its current state is the greediest, laziest, and most dangerous corporation in the entire industry. And the only thing that's going to make them change is seeing you spend your money elsewhere. So while you dipshits play your crappy platformer tech demo that costs $0.00 on that piece of shit PS5, I'll enjoy paying full price for my disabled wheelchair basketball game that utilizes the mouse function of the Joy-Con 2. This industry needs another crash like it had in 1983. Every one of these companies needs a wake-up call to start over from the ground up and remember what made their products good in the first place. Don't spend your money on soulless, overpriced garbage with zero innovation. Save your money and force the industry to do a 180. The only way to get better products is by not paying for them when they're bad. When the asking price is $450 with $80 a game, don't settle for the bare minimum. Please do not buy this product or support this company when they treat you like a walking wallet with no brains. I'm Bearman, and I've been wasting your time. Thanks for watching.